Hello and welcome to another 5 Good Minutes, where I answer your theological questions in 5 minutes or less. Today's question is all about cremation. Is cremation biblical, or has it been forbidden in the scriptures? Cremation, of course, being the method that some families choose of the final disposition of their loved one's remains. Let me just say that whether you are cremated or buried, this is a reminder, death is a reminder of who we are and where we come from. We come from our father Adam, who was made out of the dust of the ground. And because we have inherited his sin in us, in these bodies that we possess that come from him, and whether we are cremated or we decompose in the grave, either way, our bodies will decline and degrade and decompose over time. Cremation is just the acceleration of that decomposition. And this is exactly what God told Adam. He said after he sinned, "By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, and for you are dust, and to dust you shall return." Cremation or burial just reminds us of how frail we are, and how mortal we are. So what verse forbids cremation? There isn't one. And so we cannot impose a forbiddance of cremation on anyone. If the Bible hasn't spoken to it, then we remain silent, and therefore it remains a matter of personal preference. So what are some of the objections that some people give to cremation? Well, for some people, it is a matter of disrespecting their loved ones. However, in 1 Samuel 31, cremation, or burning the bodies of Saul and his sons, was actually the opposite. It was a matter of respecting their bodies. So what they did, the sons of Jabesh-Gilead came in, took the bodies before they could be disrespected anymore, burned the bodies, and then buried the bones. That's in 1 Samuel 31, 11-13. Another objection that some people give is, of course, the hope of final resurrection at the second coming of Christ. You see, our God has not just promised us a spiritual salvation, but a physical one. Paul says that the second coming of Christ, the dead in Christ will raise first out of the graves. And then we who are alive shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to be with the Lord forever. So some people say, how can my bodies be raised from the grave to be with the Lord if I've been cremated and I'm no longer here? Well, we have to remind ourselves that our God who created everything that exists in 6 days is fully capable of reassembling you and to fulfill his promise to you at his second coming. Cremation does not hinder God at all as far as giving you a glorified body at your final resurrection. And this is what we hope for, that these perishable bodies, which are able to be cremated or buried and decompose, one day that will no longer be the case. For one day we will receive a new body. And yes, that body doesn't come until the second coming of Christ, not upon your death. Your soul goes to be with the Lord, your body stays here. But at the second coming, the dead in Christ will raise first. And as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15, that this is a mystery. At the twinkling of an eye, the last trumpet, the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we shall all be changed. Yes, God is fully capable of taking those cremated remains wherever they are on earth and making you whole. For this perishable body must put on the imperishable, and this mortal body must put on immortality. When the perishable puts on the imperishable, and the mortal puts on immortality, then shall come to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. Why? Because our bodies can no longer die. Our bodies can no longer sin. Our bodies can no longer decompose. And so, this is what we look forward to. First, we're reminded of our frailty, our mortality, that we get sick, get old, have diseases, and we die. But one day there's coming a day when the Lord returns in all his glory to give us the glorification and final salvation. And it's just not spiritual, it is physical. And we long for that day, whether we are cremated or buried in the ground. This has been another 5 Good Minutes.